And you tell me.
Live from Venture X Studios, it's JP, Kathy, and the crew.
Are we live now? Excellent, excellent. All right, good morning and happy Monday. Welcome to JP, Kathy, and the crew. Super excited you have joined us today. Just me today. JP needs some prayers. Courtney ended up in the ER last night with, couldn't even straighten up. Her back was so messed up. So we are just very, 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 very happy that she's okay right now as far as we know, or at least out of the hospital. So if you'll send some prayers her way. Going to talk a little bit about the border today. Your game during the pandemic. You know, like on your phone or on your tablet or on your PC, you know, that kind of thing. Also, we've got Dr. Clothier who's about to turn the show over to him, talking summer safety. And speaking of safety, after Dr. Clothier, I've got a big old get on my soapbox rant about something I saw this morning that has to do with kids and school buses and safety and OMG. Anyways, one of the stories I was going to do, I was like, oh, I'm tossing that story for a current event that happened this morning. So, Dr. Clothier, how are you? I can't hear him. Can he hear us? I think he can probably hear us. I can't hear him. Hold on just a second, Dr. Clothier. I think we're having an issue with the output, so give us just a second. As we plug in other things. Dr. Clothier, can you talk?
So that was
yay! Now I can hear you.
Information I've ever come up with,
Okay.
and I hope you appreciate that.
Okay. See, I love Dr. Clothier's sense of humor because, of course, he's like, and that is the smartest thing, and that is the secret of the world and
that's
health.
The key. I
So,
tell you, if you only
have a
know
great
that,
day.
you're going to be fine. Yeah.
I love it. Well, Dr. Clothier, good morning, and I hope you had a great weekend. Hope you didn't get washed away. Boy, talk about safety.
Yeah.
That was crazy yesterday.
It was. I even, I got kind of wet. We had, of all the great things in the world, you know, coming out of church, we had a dead battery for no clear reason, nothing left on. But we've had a little electrical trouble in the vehicle. And, you know, it's extra fun to jump a vehicle when you're, you know, really having to hang on to it to not slide down the slope to the drain. So it was, but we had a couple of guys help us out, and they did a good job, and we eventually made it out of there. But we should have taken a boat to church, just didn't realize it.
Yeah, it was insane. You know, we my son had yesterday afternoon and into the evening had the end of season School of Rock concerts up at Tups in McKinney. You know, there were some kids who didn't get there until closer to showtime. You know, usually they have them there way in advance because they were hunkered down, especially in the Richardson area. And I know my mom was in her closet because the sirens went off. It was really scary. We had some other family that were trying to get from downtown Plano, like the Avenue K-ish area, 15th in that area. Police were out there stopping traffic because there was so much rain that cars had stalled out on the street and they were having to divert traffic. So, just a mess. And it looks like lots of rain in the forecast this weekend or this week. So just be safe, be smart when you're out on the road. I mean, speaking of safety, that's one of those things. When these rain downpours or showers come along, lots of safety issues with those. But you're going to be talking summer safety because I can't believe summer is, the school year is almost up.
You know, it's like it's May already. And it really is kind of incredible. And so one of the things I'm going to do is I'm not even going to mention COVID-19 this morning. Not going to bring it up because
that's newsworthy.
Yeah, I think, after 14 months of nothing but COVID-19, I'm just not even going to mention it. So I think that'd be a great break. So We do, though, have summer coming. You're right. So that brings up a number of health issues. And I thought it'd be valuable to just explore a few of those and remind people that as you have a little bit of a normal life, hopefully being able to get out and around a little bit. I think there are some factors we maybe have sort of put on the back shelf for a while.
Right.
And we need to remind people of. And that is when you go outside and you're joyous to be out there, and especially after, this week of rain and it looks like it'd be rain all week. So once you get outside in the classic beginning of summer, it's Memorial Day weekend, you are going to accidentally overdo it in the sun. And
Exactly.
I think we need to remind people that it's extremely valuable to wear sunscreen, wear protection, wear something over your head that covers ears, like a hat is what that's called. And then if you need light long sleeves or light long pants, that's kind of wise too. But especially if you've been inside with the pandemic for ages and you go outside, you're going to be a little surprised by how quickly you can sunburn. And I mean that for all skin tones too. It's important to protect your skin.
Absolutely.
And not burn, dry, blister. One blistering sunburn in childhood doubles the lifetime risk of skin cancer.
Absolutely.
And so you want to protect your children too, and just be aware of how intense the sun is here, because I think honestly a lot of people have probably sort of forgotten, or they're just so ready to go out and enjoy the outdoors or have a trip, have a vacation, and be careful, because the risk of skin cancer is a very real one, and you don't want to get a bad skin cancer. You don't want to get any if you can help it, and you really don't want to fry, blister, and prematurely age your skin either. It's just it's just not a good idea. So do be careful of that. I do want to mention there's a side kind of an issue that came up over the last 3 or 4 weeks, is that the very common medicine hydrochlorothiazide that often is used for blood pressure and for swelling it's a diuretic, and it's been associated in a new observational study with an increased risk in skin cancer. And it's unclear so far whether there's anything causative, or that if it's just a lot of people treated with HCTZ is what we classically call it, hydrochlorothiazide. And so I would just encourage, if you're on it, the first thing to do is just be sure to protect yourself in the sun, sunscreen, cover.
Right.
And and then you may want to discuss with your doctor whether you need change. I think in the long run, it's not going to be proven to be a cause of skin cancer. I think it's just going to be an observation that so many people are on it that for years, and then they develop a skin cancer because of other exposures. But anyway, something to be aware of out there. So the next thing is to cover is what to do about insects and arthropods, because we're with all this rain, we're going to have mosquitoes like crazy, and there's nothing worse than a crazy mosquito, I think, in terms of risk. So when you go outside, you should do something for protection from insects. And we've discussed this each year, I think, and it's worth a reminder, but a dryer sheet, like a fabric softening dryer sheet like Bounce, is a kind of classic brand that is in your pocket, actually can repel mosquitoes because they like the smell of your carbon dioxide. There's something about that dryer sheet that alters that to where you're not going to be as tasty as the next person. And so that may be very worthwhile. And another thing you can do, a lot of people don't like the idea of spraying an insect repellent on themselves, but you can spray it onto your clothes, like around your socks, for instance. That'll keep chiggers from coming up your leg as well. And in fact, chiggers are going to be unbelievable too, I think, because they like wetness. They like moist grass, especially, and long grass. And everybody's grass is going to grow this week while it's wet. So you walk out there in shorts, you're going to have chiggers get all over you. So you can spray your socks. You can spray like the back of your shirt, or top of a sleeve or something, and repel a whole lot of those. But around your ankles is especially valuable in terms of the chiggers and many other insects. So those I think need to be respected, because they do carry some risk to you in terms of bites that drive you nuts, and you can scratch, get infected. Mosquitoes, we've kind of quit talking as a society about West Nile virus and St. Louis encephalitis. Those are real infections.
Absolutely.
They're still out there. They're not airborne. They are mosquito borne. So even if you've been wearing a mask and we have less infection in general, you can still be bitten by a mosquito and get a disease. So do what you can to prevent those. As you go hike under trees, you need to be careful of ticks and, similar things. You need a barrier protection. You need a hat. You need, to inspect after you've walked through a wooded area, make sure you don't have ticks on you. And usually if you get a tick, if you can remove it within the first few hours, you really prevent infection. So I think that's a worthwhile thing to do too. And, just pay attention to those things that are out there. And the other big one, of course, would then be snakes. And snakes like to be out and around. They're going to be gathering up food, and they're going to be a little restless because they maybe haven't been out and around with the rain as we get through that too. And so it's always worthwhile, if you're out walking, doing yard work, make some noise, make some vibration. If you're going to reach into a flower bed, let's say you see a baseball there that your son threw last year and it fell into the flower bed and you forgot or never found it. Now you see it. Don't just reach in there. Have a glove, have boots on with yard work, and use a stick or a tool to just literally kind of disturb the area. If there's a snake, or maybe even more likely right now, if there's a little snake nest where the eggs have just hatched, then you can, basically talk them into getting away from you, because they really don't want to hang out with you. They want to scurry away, but you don't want to shock them by just reaching in and disturbing them. So that's where bites come from.
And you're talking about snakes. We had, a while back. Actually, this was at my old house. And it was so funny. It's one of those things, if somebody tells you something, go with your gut instinct, listen to what Dr. Clothier is saying, and just be proactive, even if you haven't heard of an issue with snakes. But we had, like a couple of months before, it was time to start doing yard work again, there had been a snake that was working its way from one house in the neighborhood, and this is when we lived on a cul-de-sac, to another house, and everybody was kind of watching it for a few hours until animal control came out. And then another neighbor was like, oh, what are y'all doing? And they're like, oh, well, we had an issue with snakes when we did some yard work last week. And so something told me, tell the guys who were doing our yard for the first big cleanup, that you do, in the spring, tell them that there's a possibility there were some snakes. They found like 7 snakes. Now, some of those were just little baby snakes in various places under big patches of leaves and stuff right up next to our house. That's kind of scary, because I'm just sitting here thinking, if we would have let, our dog go in there, or if a kid would have gone in there to get a ball, or if the guys who are doing our yard, if they had gone in there and not known, hey, we need to have gloves on, we need to go ahead and stick a rake in there and stuff. So that's pretty scary stuff. So I think that's some good advice.
Yeah, you were breaking up quite a bit. I think you went underwater again because of the rain.
Yeah.
But I heard you say you're putting me in your will.
And that's it, Dr. Clothier.
And we have evidence.
And you're welcome.
But that's about all I heard, unfortunately. So, but
I was agreeing with you. I was agreeing with you on the issue with the snakes. Yeah.
Oh, the snake. Oh, okay, maybe I misheard. I'm sorry about that. But but it did break up quite a bit. So hopefully other people could hear that well. But another thing, just keep in mind with now that people will consider travel again, is to pay attention to medicines. Make sure when you go on the trip, take enough medicine. If you're on blood pressure medicine, thyroid, diabetes medicine, make sure you take enough. We frequently get calls from people that have ended up in, some other city. Maybe they're in Destin or something, and they say, oh, I forgot my medicine. I got to call it in down here. And, it's just it's a hassle for the person without the medicine. It's a danger if they opt to not go with, to just skip it and skip the medicine for the week or whatever. And if you're flying, and or traveling, especially overseas, and potentially going through customs because of that. You do need your medicine to be in its original bottle. Most of the time, they're not going to harass you if you know, have a normal medicine like for blood pressure. But if it's a controlled substance, it could be confiscated. You could be, you know, theoretically kind of somewhat harassed for having a controlled substance that may or may not be yours. And that can be a legal issue. It can be a delay issue. And if you, like some people are sort of in the habit of putting several pills into one bottle, even if
Yes,
you know what
I
they are,
am.
the border control person may not. So,
That's a
you know,
good
you need to be
point.
careful about get through customs in a way that's logical and orderly, and just be really careful of that, because I think a lot of people kind of make a mistake there where they just don't realize that, you know, you may have a full understanding of your medicine and certainly aware of it and used to it, but that doesn't mean that you don't look suspicious when you're going through the border of another country. So,
Yeah, that's a good
you know, you want to
point.
be really careful about that.
That's a good point.
And in that way, you can make sure that you actually have your supply too, because I think it's easier to forget how many pills you have if you have them all kind of thrown into one thing. Now, if you have a pill pack that's you know, like a box of the pills, that's actually usually okay. With the exception, though, you still need any controlled substance to be in a labeled bottle that is legally yours, that it is your prescription.
Right, right,
So do be careful of that too.
right.
And it's always good to take a day or two of medicine if you're flying, and naturally, if you're going overseas, I would think that'd be true. But if you're flying, you want to make sure you have a supply of medicine with you in case your luggage gets lost. And it's probably best to just have that medicine
Absolutely.
with you anyway,
You know,
because, you
that
know,
is really
it's
good
yours.
advice. You know, I know so many people put, you know, you put your medication, you know, in like a shaving kit bag or a, you know, a toiletry bag or, you know, your makeup bag. Stick it in your purse, heck, put it in your pocket if you're a man and you're not carrying anything on the plane. That is really good advice. And, you know, I'm one of those people who if I'm driving and I'm doing a weekend trip, I'll take a couple of each of my blood pressure pills. I actually always carry an extra one of each of my blood pressure pills anyways, but I just have them in, you know, I have them in with some ibuprofen, with some Benadryl, with a prednisone in case I get into a situation where I have an extreme allergic reaction. And on a plane, that's not going to fly. It's going to look like, hey, look at who's this lady? She's got a potpourri of drugs, you know?
Yeah, I think, you know, you just want things to be organized
Yeah,
and minimize, you know, you can minimize your stress by having a plan. And that's just
absolutely.
the bottom line to it. And, you know, I think that really helps. It also, you know, it's not the easiest thing in the world just from the view of a doctor. If you get a call from out of state, out of the country, whatever, it's not just simple, just call up and do a prescription. You know, most of us who are doctors in Texas are licensed in Texas. And that doesn't mean that we're licensed in every state, because, you know, you're not. And so there are state lines and country lines that make a difference. And the pharmacists there may or may not fill the prescription because they may or may not believe it's real. And, you
That's a
know,
good
it's
point.
just different. And you don't necessarily want to, you know, have to get somebody on the phone for a half hour to fill your blood pressure medicine, because, you know, it takes away from other patients too, frankly. You know, if we were sitting here doing nothing but refills, that's a little different. That's not usually the case. And so I think it's good to have a plan all around. And then make sure you have up-to-date immunizations. You know, the whole COVID vaccine thing is a different discussion, because at this point, nobody knows if that'll be actually required for travel or not. You know, sort of a COVID passport type deal. It's nice when people say there won't be one. In a year, there could be one. You know, we don't know. But if you
Yes,
want to make sure, you should make sure you're up to date, say, on hepatitis A vaccine if you're going overseas where there's a risk there. Always check State Department websites, and CDC, World Health Organization, has up to date information on infection like malaria and dengue fever and all the things, you know, that are real world infections that are not
right.
COVID, and therefore they haven't been talked about as much. So just make sure you're not going into an area with a big outbreak of something different. And, you don't want to go there and get infected if you could be immunized against that. Typhoid is, another classic example. And certainly be wise about all those things.
Absolutely.
So if you are driving, I want to mention, too, safety wise, if you're driving somewhere, make sure you have enough time to stop and get out of the car periodically. It's a very real thing to get highway hypnosis from driving too far and getting sleepy. You need to take a break every hour or two. And if that's even just walking around the vehicle a couple times or something, or, quick restroom break, or get a little snack.
Dr. Clothier, highway, I assume I know what you're talking about with like highway hypnosis. I've never heard that exact term. Like describe that, because a lot of times, like I'll sit here and, especially I do, and have over the years made the Dallas to Austin run down 35 a bajillion times. And there's sometimes I don't stop at all. So what are you referring to? And why is that important?
Yeah, it basically is a syndrome where when you've been, especially if you're on the road, you've driven a lot. And so, you're super familiar with that. I think most people have had the experience where they're kind of driving along and suddenly realize they're either further along than they thought, or they missed an exit,
yes.
or, and to a degree, if you're just zoned in on the road and driving, that's, what you should be. But if you do that for too long, you tend to get that syndrome of highway hypnosis where you just kind of are in sort of a weird zone where you maybe aren't as alert as you believe, and you could doze off. You could, just have your mind kind of float away with, other thoughts, and pretty soon you can really be in, trouble with that driving wise. So it's best to take a break periodically, keep yourself alert. And that's really important too, from the standpoint of blood clot risk. When you sit too long, like in a car, you can run the risk of a blood clot. Same with a long plane flight. So you need to get up and around every hour or two, even if you think you're really healthy. And I'll tell you, we've seen more blood clots in the era of COVID because there's something about COVID that seems to increase the risk for people who have had prior infection.
Right.
I'm not talking about immunization right now, but about prior infection. And so you need to get out, walk around. Again, even a few steps makes a difference. It contracts the muscles. It gets you away from the seat that is a barrier to your vein, and you can be safer.
Yeah, I think Dr. Clothier, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard this, from several friends who are in the medical field like yourself, that because people, especially if you're working from home, it's one of those situations where I just don't think during COVID and during the pandemic, we're moving as much. We're binge watching TV. So you're sitting there watching a show for 2 and 3 hours at a time, when normally you would have maybe gone to the gone to a restaurant, maybe gone out to a movie, or, actually just gotten out, hung out with friends, and you're up and moving. But when you're just sitting there over and over and over, there is that risk.
Absolutely. So you need to be aware of that, careful about it, do the minimal things to prevent it. It's very easy to just pull to the side, make a stop every hour or two. Just be smart. That's the bottom line. Don't drive if you're exhausted. Don't tell yourself, oh, surely I'll make it again this time. If you are exhausted, take a moment to rest, take a walk to wake up. Yep. That'd be a real key.
Yeah, good point.
Be safe this summer because it's coming, and be aware of the heat. We've had a pretty moderate winter. We even had that nice blizzard for several days that we're all snowed in.
It's crazy, yeah.
I think we've got to acclimate to the heat too. So for those of you who exercise every day like you should, which surely is all of our listening audience,
everybody's agreeing with you.
It's going to get more hot and humid soon.
Right. Well, yeah, and it has been unseasonably cooler, but I think, and that's another thing, and we definitely want to cover something that you cover every summer, and I think it's so important, and that's heat strokes, how to know if you're having one, how to make sure you're hydrated ahead of time, even, and you mentioned using sunscreen and things of that nature. Even when it's cloudy outside, I had a girlfriend who was poll greeting during the election cycle. She had a ball cap on, thought she was good to go. Oh, had her mask on because she was physically talking to people and distributing paperwork. but everywhere her ears got severely sunburned, like this part of her face that, where there was a reflective area, even though she had a ball cap on, because she said she goes, it was cloudy. I didn't think I needed sunscreen.
Yeah, I think April and May are always risky times because you don't think you're going to get sunburned. You
Right.
think about it when you're at the beach or if it's June, July, August, but you don't think about it in April and May. And I think, you just have to be proactive about that and realize that you
Absolutely.
can get a sunburn in your car. If you're driving in the sun, you can get a sunburn there. So, make use of proper sunscreen, proper barrier protection.
So true. So true. Well, great advice as always, Dr. Clothier. We really appreciate you. How can people get in touch with you if they're looking for a new family physician or if they've just moved here? And I know several members of the crew, they are already your patients, but how
Yes.
can people get in touch with
I'm
you?
thankful. Yeah, we're at 214-575-3422, 214-575-3422, or FHCATX.com. And before
Excellent.
you pick on me for a complicated website, we know it's FHCA, which is Family Healthcare Associates.
There you go.
TX is like a symbol for Texas, and then .com is what Al Gore came up with on that. So
he invented that all those years ago.
FHCATX.com. Yeah, so we're available. Family Healthcare Associates. We have 11 locations. We have a lot of great physicians. They'd be happy to see you.
I love it. And you've motivated Michelle. She's actually on vacation at the beach right now. And she said, okay, I'll wear SPF 4 today. So at least she's covered herself. It's progress with her. So you've motivated somebody from the crew. All right. Well, have a blessed week.
Well,
Thanks so much.
Weekend. Yeah, when you wash away, leave an indicator where you are so we can pull you back out of the water.
Amen. Thanks so much,
Very
Dr.
good.
Clothier. Have a great
All right.
one.
Goodbye.
All right. Before I get started on my rant, wanted to give a shout out. We've got Kilroy's Conversation with Chuck Wright and Andrew White that comes on every Saturday. If you didn't get a chance to catch their show, Saturday, a great show. You can go back to our YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, Periscope. I'll leave all that up to Charles Gura to explain to you, but you can find the show. I actually even shared it to my personal Facebook page on Kathy Partridge Ward. It was Armed Forces Day, and they just had a great show. They talked about a lot of the things that Chuck Wright has been in charge of with the veterans community, and God bless him, he outdid himself with the North Texas Gold Star Memorial dedication ceremony last Thursday. Just amazing. And then I was so honored to be part of helping out with the Arlie Ermy Memorial Classic, the golf tournament, and Fred Nort, he was there, and thank you, Fred, so much. I know they appreciate that you were a sponsor, a whole sponsor, and so we got to hang out with Fred and smoke cigars and all kinds of good stuff. It was a great time, even if you don't play golf, which I don't play golf, but I love golf tournaments, and this is supporting the homeless veterans, and we're going to be talking more. JP and I are in the coming months leading up to Veterans Day about the Dallas a Veterans Homeless Coalition that is doing really good work with people who truly are in need, and especially during this pandemic. So we're going to be asking the crew for help with this particular organization. But I love this. It is, and the exact title of the homeless veterans shelter is Homeless Veterans Services of Dallas, so HVSD, and I've got that tagged on my page as well. This is a challenge coin. I was so excited. So Chuck gave me this challenge coin after the tournament, and I just love it. That is so cool. Any of y'all who I know, all the crew, y'all are all into supporting the military. Many of you are military or veterans. And so a challenge coin is just a really neat thing. And I'm just so thrilled to have this. And so I was so honored to have led the Pledge of Allegiance out at the golf tournament, and what a great time, huge success. So kudos, bravo to our friend Chuck Wright, who had back-to-back events for people in the veterans community. He has a heart for veterans. He is a veteran himself. Just bravo, my friend. Phenomenal job. We're super, super proud of you. Just good stuff. And again, we had a great time with Fred. It was just so fun. They had this cool. It was so great. I love this idea. They had a hand rolled cigar station, and so. You could get, and they by far the best cigar I've smoked. And over the years at political events, I've smoked many. Just wonderful. Just had a great time. Such good stuff. So yeah, the coin really is cool, Fred. I just loved it. So good stuff. Oh yes. Oh, thank you so much, Fred, for mentioning Woody Williams. I'm so glad you said that. Yeah, Fred, along with myself and a number of us, we were able to meet Woody Williams, who he's amazing. I mean, Fred, could you, I would have never believed he's 97, but he is the last surviving World War II Medal of Honor recipient. So to be able to meet Woody Williams and shake his hand, of course, he opened up the event with a prayer. What an amazing individual. And that, yeah, I'm right with you there, Fred. No offense, Fred. Yeah, you were fun to hang out with. It was way cool, though, to meet Woody Williams. And just what an amazing individual. He'll be 98 in October. And again, he is just as upbeat, positive, travels all around helping out different causes and organizations for veterans like this. And it's just good stuff, just really good stuff. Okay, so we're going to go from something phenomenal, great stuff, to, and I'm going to get to Czar Harris and the border here in a second, because there may be an issue that a friend of mine, and I'll explain how I know this person, has uncovered. We're going to be talking with Senator Paxton's office and the Attorney General's office. There may be a real issue when it comes to the border that has impacted people in need here in America more than we're aware of. So anyways, I'm going to talk about that in a second, but I have to get, this is one of those times where you're like, I'm so glad that we have a show where I can actually get on my soapbox and rant. I'm noticing, and I don't know, maybe it's because I'm getting old. I feel like I'm one of those people, like, kids, get off my yard. You know, the music's too loud. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting old. But there are certain rules of the road that have been around for a really long time, and they've been around for a really long time for a reason. Something that when I was doing, the parent self-taught driving with both of my kids, they had to log their hours with me in the car driving. One of the things I was really big on telling them, okay, you notice an ambulance has gone by. Notice that we've pulled over to the far right. We have stopped. So have a number of other people, but you still have people driving, and you hear the ambulance or the fire truck beeping and having to maybe switch lanes to get around somebody who's still driving. That's one of those, nails on a chalkboard thing. I'm like, you know what? If there's an emergency vehicle, every second counts. That's somebody's home burning down. That's somebody, possibly, surviving or dying from a heart attack, depending on you being a yahoo on the road. I don't even know. The word I want to use, I won't say on the air. If JP were here, he would say it, but I won't. I'll be a lady. But, okay, so there's another thing. When you're on the road, and you see a school bus, and in particular, especially if it's a special needs school bus, which you can tell because they've got different kinds of emergency equipment. It indicates that there are people in that bus, that a lot of them are in wheelchairs and things of that nature. So I'm driving down. Okay, so I live in Plano, but I'm literally right kind of where, I'm a stone's throw from where Allen, McKinney, Frisco, and Plano all come together. So this morning I'm driving down Independence and getting ready to go left onto 121, the service road of 121. And there is an apartment complex over on the right-hand side where I drive, and I know because a number of times in the morning, depending on what time I leave, I end up seeing that school bus. And so the school bus is there. It is stopped, and it is easy to tell that it is stopped. For one thing, all kinds of lights are flashing. There are kids getting on the bus, so that's another indicator. And then also, this is what I can't believe this person did this. Okay, so there are signs, okay, so the bus is over here on the far right-hand side of the street. They have these two big stop signs that flip out, I guess, on the side of the bus that say stop. And not only is it the big red stop sign, which anybody who's gone through driver's ed or taken a driver's test or gotten your driver's license, that's means stop. But around both of the stop signs that are flipped out on the side of the bus are blinking lights. So even if you haven't even had your first cup of coffee, even if it's still a little dark, you can tell that means stop. So, number of us were stopped in all three lanes, which, okay, do you miss a green light? Yes, you do. It does take several minutes sometimes for the kids to load or unload if it's at the end of the school day. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I'm like, what's happening? And this tool, I'll just say that, this blank, fill in the blank, goes over, so all three lanes of traffic, this person, I couldn't tell if it was a guy or a girl, goes into a left-hand turn lane to pull out and go wide in front of all of us who were stopped for this school bus that was still loading kids, and then speed on past. Does that make anybody else crazy? Okay, y'all are young. Okay, I'm looking at Bree and Nathaniel who work with us here at VentureX. Y'all are young. Do y'all know about if a school bus is stopped? What do you do? Bree's like, you stop. Okay, so that's not like, oh, it's a generational thing. You don't know. If you see flashing stop signs and you see children getting onto a bus or off of a bus, unless that person had somebody bleeding out in their car, and they were by themselves, by the way, or I don't know. I don't know any reason why you would do that in a million years. Anyway, so that, okay, Marvin's like idiot. Yeah, I could not believe that. I was so outraged that I had to call my husband just to rage about it. I was like, can you believe somebody just did that? And he's like, okay. I said, I'm going to talk about this on the air. I wish word would get to this person. I was like, where is a police officer? I wanted to see that person get pulled over so badly it wasn't even funny. So, my goodness, just mind the rules of the road. And it's, you know what? If you're going to be late, if it's not some life-threatening emergency, there is no reason to endanger somebody else's life just so you can be a tool, idiot, whatever the case may be, and take care of that. So anyway, okay, I could literally go on about this forever, but I won't. Oh, yes. Coach Quigley, I'm so glad you mentioned that because I'm going to attend the Zoom meeting of that. I was hoping to go in person, but I'm not going to be able to, so I'm going to do the Zoom meeting. Coach David Humphrey, who, an amazing individual. He was actually my daughter's teacher and then my son's teacher at Plano Academy High School. He passed. I think some of you may remember we spoke of him last year. Very younger than me. Everybody's like, well, you're old, so it doesn't matter. Everybody's younger than you. Well, anyways, way too young. Amazing individual who the kids loved. I remember when I told my son, I said, sweetie, I got to tell you this before you hear it from your friends, but Coach Humphrey passed, and he said, and his exact words were, no, mom, I think you're confused. And I said, no, Coach Quigley is good friends with him and his family. And he really did. He said, there's no way. He said, there wasn't a teacher. He goes, there's not a teacher at my school more full of life than Coach Humphrey. So just still a heartbreaking loss. And we still just, want to pray for his family. But what's really cool is the students at Academy. There's a group of students who are dedicating. They've got a really nice fitness center at the Academy in Plano, and they are doing a plaque dedication today at 10 o'clock. I think. Did you put the Zoom link in here, Coach Quigley? If not, if you can put the Zoom link on here as well so people can see that. They're limited on how many people can actually attend in person because of social distancing and things of that nature, but there is a memorial, naming the workout facility and the gym for in honor of Coach Humphrey, and I'm so glad they're doing it, and I love it that the students there are leading the effort on that. So just again, prayers and love for Coach Humphrey's family and those students and those staff who have had the honor of working with him, like Coach Quigley, who will miss him. So we do appreciate that, and thank you so much for mentioning that. Marvin, good morning, Lisa. Marvin said, Kathy, I'm twice your age. I would never know it. See, I meet it's so funny, and my dad's on the feed, and he's going to crack up. I was always taught age is a state of mind, and I really do believe that. We joke on the air all the time about how old I am, but I'm like, age is just, it's something that you're grateful for, and so I look at folks, and nowadays I just really have a hard time telling people's ages unless they've got kids a certain age, or they're like, oh yeah, well I've been, teaching for 30 years or something. Unless you've got some kind of marker where how old somebody is, it's kind of, it's kind of hard to tell. Anyways, okay, so I want to real quick, let me pull up my story on Kamala Harris, and I want to try to talk a little bit about games during the pandemic, because I know I've got one that was that still is my go-to game, and also the top 10 most binged shows during the pandemic. I want to see if anybody has any matchups. And one of them we've talked about, and I know y'all all watched it, even if you won't admit it. So Kamala Harris has gone 54 days without a news conference since being tapped for the border crisis control. And let me tell you, this crisis is worse than we can imagine. It is at this point, it is a humanitarian crisis, and the fact that you've got somebody who was put in charge of this, who hasn't come down to the border, who is not even seeing what's going on, it just makes me crazy. So it says Sunday was the 54th consecutive day the Vice President, Kamala Harris, has neither visited the border region nor held a news conference regarding her role as President Biden's appointed manager of the federal response to this crisis. United States Senator Ted Cruz, a vocal critic of Biden and Harris, chose Sunday to tweet out a video clip of a speech he made Thursday slamming the administration for its border policies. Enough is enough, Cruz wrote. Biden, Kamala, and Homeland Security Secretary need to stop pretending that there is no crisis on our southern border. And he is absolutely right. Besides the things that, we, the crew and JP and I have already talked about that are going on, just the unreal conditions these people are living in. I've got an issue, and I'm just going to touch on it today because I'm still finding out the details. But I've got some dear friends. Those of you who have been with JP, Kathy, and the crew for a long time know back in the 90s, I was a high school teacher at Plano East Senior High, a special education teacher, and I'm still good friends with a number of the special ed students and their families who I taught back then. So many of them are in their 40s now. A lot of them living in group homes for adults. And one of the issues that one of my former students that his brother has brought to my attention is the lack of funding and and there's always a lack of funding in that area, by the way. But lately, you've got some significant issues since Biden has come into power and with some of his executive orders and with him saying, come on over, opening the border up, and Kamala Harris not going down there and taking charge of this and making sure these things aren't happening. There is money. And it all, because a lot of this money all comes out of the same pot. And again, I'll know more about this because we're going to be meeting with some other folks and some elected officials about this particular issue and what can be done, especially in Texas. So I've got a former special needs student of mine who is in jeopardy of the group home he's lived in for years and years and years now. He's in jeopardy of that group home shutting down because of funding. Here's what's happening. So the funding that our tax dollars are paying for, and I accept that, yeah, there are certain things that, you're helping out somebody who can't help themselves. If you're a special needs adult who needs supervision, who needs to live in a place like a group home, you're unable to go out and live on your own. Now, the student I'm talking about has worked even sometimes 2 jobs. Now that's been tricky during the pandemic, but we're getting that issue worked back out so he can get back out into the workforce. But these are people who will never be able to live on their own or make enough money to take care of themselves and live in a place by themselves. They've got to have some type of supervision. Most of them, they don't drive. They need help if they have medication they take, and there's somebody who works at that group home who takes care of those needs. So these are people who I know some of my tax dollars goes towards helping out special needs adults who can't take care of themselves. And I'm fine with that. So guess what? That money pile is dwindling because of all of the illegal immigrants that are coming over and getting all of these services that I may not even be able to afford for myself because I'm like, oh, well, that's a $1,500 deductible for me to do that, even though I've got insurance and I work. Wow. I don't know. Does that make anybody else crazy like it makes me crazy? I think that's horrible. It's one of those things. There are certain people, homeless veterans. There are people who are in need in our country who are here legally, who are now losing out on funding in this particular situation, possibly losing a home. Because at this point, the group home is really struggling, and it's not just them. It's multiple group homes around Texas are trying to figure out how do we keep our doors open and take care of our clients. And I'm like, so where are Biden and Harris on this? And I don't care what side of the aisle you're on politically. To me, a Republican, Democrat, I could care less when it comes to an issue like this. This is a human being issue. And if you are taking money away, or you're turning a blind eye, or you're not putting something in place to protect the people who are in need, who are already legally in this country, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. That's it. I would say this to a Republican. I would say this to an independent. I would say this to Green, Libertarian. I don't care who you are. But right now, Biden and Harris, this issue, and my goodness, it hasn't even been 6 months. And you've already got group homes in Texas who potentially are going to have to shut down because of this. So stay tuned because I'll keep you updated on this. And we may be asking the crew to help out, make some phone calls because this should be unacceptable. And I just don't understand why the current administration is just turning a blind eye to it. I think it's horrible. I think they should be ashamed of themselves. That's another rant. You're like, wow, Kathy, you're really in a good mood today. So, okay, top mobile games. And this is, was this the top? These are the most popular mobile games, and this is from 2020, the first biggest part of the pandemic. Okay, and have y'all heard of any of these? Some of these I've heard of them, but not all of them. One is PU, and actually, you know what? I'm going to send you Chambrielle, can I email you this so you can pull these games up as I go? Y'all bear with me just for a second because I think the visual of these games helps. So hold on. Nope. Switch that. Okay, I'm going to send it to the JP Kathy and the Crew email, and you should have that momentarily, and we'll pull that up. But in the meantime, if you're on our feed, send a text to me and let me know, and I'm going to tell y'all what my go-to game has been during the pandemic. And I definitely have had one, and I know I've logged more hours playing this game during the pandemic probably than all the years previously that I hadn't played it. I can tell you that for a fact without even seeing numbers. So did that come through? Okay, she's going to put this perfect. Especially some of these games I haven't heard of because I'm not very good at them. There's certain games that I look at, I'm like, oh, that's way too complicated for me. Of course, I'm still a Miss Pac-Man stand-up arcade kind of game person. So the top one is PUBG Mobile. So this is the world's #1 mobile game for 2020. It rose to the most popular mobile game app in over 100 countries. The PC version of PUBG introduced a new concept of battle royale. So that's kind of sounds like Fortnite to me. Okay, Call of Duty. Okay, which that's on the original one of that is on here too, I think. Okay, so the area will shrink. So basically you've got players on an unknown island. Okay, so Chambrielle's shaking her head. She knows about this. And they fight to be on the top. Oh, to win. Okay, gotcha. It says the area will shrink gradually to draw the players close. So I guess that makes the battle more intense. And if you're good, you win. If you're like me, well, you wouldn't even make it past the first round. So anyway, so that's #1. Call of Duty, the mobile version, because I know tons of, including my own son, are big on the Call of Duty, and they play with their friends and everything on their gaming system. But this is the mobile app, and it's #2. It said, it's got some insane number of downloads, but they said the fun doesn't stop. This game was one of the most addictive mobile games in 2019. Still is in 2020. You're nodding your head. I guess it's just ginormously popular. And it's one of those, like, I tried like once. I couldn't even get my guy to turn around. Like, you know how like you have your weapon and then
on the PC or
on the gaming system. Oh, that's it. Yeah, that's easy. Yeah, except for somebody like me. I kept just walking into the wall, and I was like, I don't think this game's for me. And my son's like, it is not. Or I think my daughter I was playing with. They're like, no, not for you, Mom. Okay, now I love this, except even though I love this show, and this is just one of my all-time favorite shows, the game would be too hard for me too. It's called Game of Thrones Beyond the Wall. So this is one of the most popular web series that broke many records, although and I know they said a disappointing season 8 ending. People still love the show. Very true, very true. So anyway, so you can interact with this. This is Beyond the Wall is in partnership with HBO and GAEA. I guess, is that some gaming system? Anyway, so this has been hugely popular and is #3. Now, I've never heard of this, and I've heard of Tom Clancy, and I know, his books, and I've read some of his books. So this is another PC game. It's called Tom Clancy's Elite Squad. So there's that. I'm like, who knew that his book became a game? Now, this I know because my son and his friends are big time still into this. Minecraft, and this is the Pocket Edition, and it still fascinates me. That game has just been ginormously popular, and everything's like square and kind of looks old school, but I know the kids love it. Then there is, and I loved this series, Stranger Things the game, and this kind of reminds me of like an old one of the old-fashioned Atari games, kind of like Frogger or something that my brother and I used to play. So anyways, that comes in at #6. And I think, was it just the top 6? I guess so. Okay, well, so what is your go-to game? I know we're running out of time. Mine is and I'm going to pull it up. It is a game called, and this shows you again my level of expertise on games and which games I can and cannot play. I'm real big on the games where you can level up that are kind of strategic. I love word games. Love word games. Love puzzle games where you try to figure something out. I even like the puzzle games, literally like jigsaw puzzles. But I tell you what, the game I have played the most during the pandemic is a game called Nibblers. Fruit Nibblers, I think. It's like these fish and a little octopus and these little lizards and then fruit and all of this stuff and this is crazy. I think I hit just the other day. Now, granted, I've been playing this game probably ever since I got my first iPad. I mean, I've played it a long time. But I realized the other day, I was like, I did play this a lot during the pandemic. I'm like on level, it's taking a while for my game to load. I am on like level, let's see if I can find what level I'm on, like 1,000. Like I hit level 1,000. Again, I've been playing this, probably 10 years or so. Anyways, really fun game, mind-numbing. It's one of those, if I just need to chillax. And I found, and my husband will tell you this too, he'll agree with me on this, because, and we don't have time to talk about it today, maybe we can talk about it later this week, love you, Michelle. Be safe. Have fun. Hi, Elizabeth. When we're sitting there binge watching shows, because that became a real new thing and something we definitely did during the pandemic and have still done, I'll play the game while I'm sitting there watching a couple of episodes. So is anybody else into that? I don't know. Trying to see. I know. Astro Sweep. Yes, this is true. So anyways, fun stuff. Let me know what your game of choice, your go-to game has been during the pandemic. I know everybody has one just about. So anyways, Senate Minute, get an update because we're coming very close to the end of the legislative session. Sine Die is just right around the corner. So Senator Paxton will be on with us Wednesday. Trying to think what else we've got going on. Just lots going on this week. So tune back in. We appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Have a blessed week. And we will see you on Wednesday. Stay tuned. We've got Heart and Soul of Texas Women coming up next at 10. All right. Love y'all. Bye.